Have you ever sat down and gotten the urge to watch a New York City sewer rat giving birth? No? Well, watch this movie from 2023 and you might just get that urge because it would be a decent palate cleanser, to say the least. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you did read the title right. I decided to watch the worst rated movie of 2023. Why, you might ask? Well, for you, okay? It was for you. So, as you're watching this, consider liking and subbing because, especially after this, I would definitely appreciate it because from the very first moment I hit play on this movie, I immediately regretted it. The first 5 minutes of the movie, nearing 10 minutes, were what you might consider a compilation of what appeared to be stock film, and then proceeding this first 5 minutes or so was another 5 minutes of complete and utter silence, no music or anything, as the main character basically spends the majority of the time just walking around. Now, before I get ahead of myself, let me make a few clarifications first. When I say that this was the worst rated movie of 2023, that is according to Rotten Tomatoes. And then the second clarification I need to make is that it's not the only worst rated movie of 2023. This movie, which is called Shrapnel, I should say that now, it's called Shrapnel, was rated 0%. There are other movies from 2023 rated 0% as well. Unfortunately, there's not a rating below that, so I'm not sure the order of which is worse than the other ones unless I watch them all, which if you want me to do, I can do that and then rank them. But for now, let's stick with Shrapnel. I just chose that one because it was the first one on the list. If I were to give my briefest review possible for this movie, I'd simply say that it lacks any substance, zero substance. In fact, I'd go so far as saying it has negative substance, which I will explain momentarily. And to embellish this review, I might also add that it consists of bad acting and poorly written lines. I mean, we're talking soap opera scripts here. That's what it seems like. It seems like a big old soap opera, except for the fact that soap operas have a saving grace, which is plot. Soap operas have the wackiest, most extraordinarily unbelievable plots of all time, but that's what makes them so entrapping and so fascinating and fun to watch. This movie lacks any of that. Do you know those word cloud charts where you input a certain paragraph or something, and in the chart it shows the frequency of the words used? So say if the was used the most, it would be the biggest word in the chart. It almost seems as if the script writers of Shrapnel used one of these generators to produce the script of their movie. It's as if they took the last 100 scripts of the past 100 action thriller movies, put it into a word cloud generator, and then just extracted the biggest lines and put it into their film. This movie is a great example of how looks don't always mean everything. I mean, the camera quality and the camera work is decent enough in the film. There's just nothing behind that. There's nothing ever really going on that's attractive to an audience. So for any filmmakers or aspiring filmmakers, keep this in mind. You don't need the best equipment. I will watch it if there's meaningful content behind it. This movie, however, it's under the guise of good looks. It's hiding behind the guise of good looks, but really behind it, it's just nothing. I know that I have yet to broach the topic of what this movie is about, but honestly, I've been circumventing it since it still astounds me that this movie is so unoriginal, but I'll give it my best shot. This movie is about a military veteran whose daughter crosses the Mexican border, unbeknownst to him, is subsequently captured by the Mexican cartel and supposedly made to do nefarious things. Of course, as most sane people would do, he follows that track into Mexico to search for her and in order to seek his revenge against those who have done him wrong. Now, if this sounds a little familiar to you, well, it struck the same chord with me, basically. It's the exact plot of Rambo: Last Blood from 2019. And as far as recreations are concerned, Shrapnel falls way short of the tread marks left by Rambo: Last Blood. Almost like a pole vaulter who can't even make it 2 inches off the ground, and on top of that is slapped in the face by their own pole. Now, I don't want to make a habit in these videos of using another movie to compare the movie I just watched with, but I think given how close the movies are, it makes sense to compare and contrast them. In this case, it's going to be mostly contrasting because, like I said, Shrapnel is nothing compared to Rambo: Last Blood. And to be clear, Rambo: Last Blood did not receive the best reviews either. But that's probably because it has previous movie standards to live up to, and unfortunately it does fall short of reaching those expectations. But overall, it does have a well-rounded story that Shrapnel should aspire to. But of course, Shrapnel's story is shattered to say the least. There is one huge issue at the root of Shrapnel's blatant flop. And that is the fact that it's unable to access that nugget of disbelief inside an audience member's brain. And what I mean by that is that whenever you go to see a movie, there is always part of you that is aware and is reminding you that it is in fact a movie and not reality, right? But great, exceptional movies are able to access that part of your brain and suspend that disbelief. Shrapnel, however, is not successful in doing this, and to be honest, I don't even think they make an attempt to do so. Rambo: Last Blood, however, does this rather well, and the key element that Shrapnel is missing is that we do not care as audience members what happens to the daughter figure. And I know that sounds a little harsh, but again, this is a movie. If this were reality and I read a news story about someone who went through this, obviously I would feel sad and care and be empathetic. But however, again, this is a movie and there's a certain emotional distance there between me and this daughter character, and the movie fails to bring me close to her. How the movie fails to do this? Well, we never meet her. We don't meet her until the last 5 minutes of the movie. We don't know who this person is in order for us to care about her. We need to be able to care about her in the movie so that in turn we can care about the main character's motivations for rescuing her. Otherwise, nothing really makes sense. Nothing is meaningful to us. Nothing immerses us into the world because that basic level of empathy has not been met. The person responsible for this rather obvious blunder in which the movie starts in Mexico with the main character already searching for his missing daughter, such that we don't see her throughout the entirety of the film, must also be the same irredeemable, smooth-brained doofus that thought what this movie really needed was a 40-minute long shootout in the middle of the movie. I shit you not. From minute 30 to about an hour and 10, it's just a shootout. A shootout where our main character, even though he's standing outside in the open being barraged by gunfire from, automatic assault rifles, never gets hit and hits everyone perfectly with just one shot, which makes even less sense when you realize that at the beginning of the movie, the cartel is said to be filled with people who are ex-military, just like the main character is. So it's even more unbelievable. But even also more unbelievable than that is how the shootout gets started. Basically, the father of the missing daughter, he goes on the news basically and makes a public statement about his missing daughter. Apparently, the cartel leader is watching this broadcast, which already in itself is something that I find hard to believe. But then the father ends up saying, to his daughter, "I will find you." A pretty simple statement, right? A lot of mourning parents will say this to missing children and things like that. They will say, "I won't stop. I will find you. I will do what I can to find you." Now, apparently, the cartel leader decides to take this as a direct threat to which he kills one person and then sends the other one to the guy's house to confront him. And that's how this whole shootout gets started. Apparently, "I will find you," which the guy said to his daughter, is now taken as a direct threat from the cartel leader, who was apparently watching the American broadcast of this local news network, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. So then the cartel leader decides to make the first move by going to the ranch in the desert where this guy is at. Doesn't really at all add up, in my opinion, but I also want to show you just a very small clip from this movie, from the shootout, because it blows my mind.
Susan!
Okay, I wanted to show you that just to give you a sense of what's going on during this shootout. Now, keep in mind, this is the very beginning of the shootout. There's still like 40 more minutes of that, basically, that takes place inside the house. But I want to show you that just to exemplify how unkillable this main character is. He is standing in wide open space, just facing head on this barrage of gunfire. And apparently, within this tumult, he is able to get a shot off and successfully blow someone's head off, which is already rather unbelievable. But even more so is the fact that the flesh around the neck of this guy undulates more than anime girl Bazonga's. And there's also another factor of this gunfight that I still can't wrap my head around. I've granted mulligans to everything else. I've let go of the fact that the movie was basically ruined by this shootout in the middle of the film, because if you put this action-packed scene in the middle of the film, you ruin the climax that's supposed to take place at the end of the film. It's just so much less significant at the end of the film with this shootout in the middle of it. But I've set all of that aside. There is another part of this shootout that baffles me more than anything else, and that is the introduction of the cop character. And typically this wouldn't seem so out there, but I have a few issues with this. Well, I have more than a few, but I'm going to try to keep it to a few. The first one is that before the shootout starts, so probably about 20 minutes before this cop character, well, maybe not 20 minutes, maybe like 15 minutes before the cop character is introduced, the movie makes a big deal about how this ranch is basically in the middle of nowhere. As they state, there are no neighbors that could possibly know what's going on, right? So this cop, he receives a call from his dispatch saying that there is gunfire at the ranch. You know, people know what the ranch is. You know, they say the name of the ranch. I'm a little confused on how the dispatcher knows where the gunshots are coming from, because as the movie said, there's no one around there that could give that type of information. Or gunfire is loud, so people could hear it, maybe. But that doesn't mean they could pinpoint the location. Now, the other option would be that the police station in this town has a gunshot radar system that can sort of pinpoint where gunshots are fired. However, I find this a little unreasonable just because those types of systems are usually used for more urban areas where locating gunfire can be just a pain in the ass, and it alerts cops early on to apparent gunfire. So that's my first issue. The second issue is the dialogue that the cop uses. When he receives this dispatch call, his response into his walkie-talkie, if that's what his receiver or whatever you'd call it, he says, "Wait, what?" That is not the response a police officer would give. Instead of sitting around munching on his hot dog and saying, "Wait, what?" he should probably maybe not even ask for more information. He should just get going, basically. My third issue is that there's a good 5 minutes spent on establishing this scene and establishing this character, and he dies within like a minute of arriving on the scene. So I'm a little confused. Okay, maybe not a minute. That's an over exaggeration. Maybe not a minute. Maybe like 2-3 minutes. He's basically useless, is what I'm trying to say. So my confusion is, why was he even introduced in the first place? So those are my main issues with the shootout in general. Is actually the cop character that's introduced, because it defies any logic that the movie had set forth in the beginning. My last comments on this film are in relation to the ending, most obviously, but I know I haven't discussed the ending all that much yet, but that's just because it doesn't live up to the even minuscule shred of potential that the middle gunfight scene seems to promote. It's just that at the ending, when there should be some sort of climax or exciting, enthralling action, there really just isn't that much. Basically, the main character and his buddy that had actually been introduced early in the movie, which I just completely bypassed because I don't really find him to be a necessary part of the movie. But anyways, these two men, they just run into the cartel leader's home and start shooting people. Overall, the movie's portrayal of the cartel is not at all realistic. I mean, this cartel leader is easily found, and there's like 3 guards. I mean, overall, I think it's a childlike perception of how a cartel would function overall throughout the movie. But yeah, at the end of the movie, there's no clear course of action or plan or just intelligent plan on how they're going to seek their revenge. It's just a gun-ho type of situation, as if they were playing Call of Duty campaign on easy mode. That's really what it feels like. And unfortunately, I do have to put that against the movie. It's not exciting, and it makes the ending of the movie entirely insignificant. But those are the main things I wanted to discuss in this video. I legitimately finished this movie like an hour ago, so these are just my initial thoughts. I still have a lot of things brewing up in this big brain right here, but I wanted to at least let you guys have my initial impressions of the movie. Personally, I would likely rate it 0%, just as Rotten Tomatoes did, because I didn't have a good time watching it. It wasn't a fun experience for me. The most fun I had in watching it was in critiquing it. That's where my fun came from during the movie, and that's honestly something that's rather sad to say. link down in the description, there is a Google Sheets that has public access. And what you can do there is just give me your suggestions of things you'd like me to watch and react to, review, whatever it may be. Whatever it is you want me to do, I can do it as long as you leave it in that Google Sheets that's linked down below. And also consider liking and subbing because I would absolutely appreciate it. But once again, that's just my initial impression of Shrapnel, and go ahead and watch the movie for yourself and see if you agree, see if you disagree. Let me know in the comments below if you do. And yeah, that being said, that's all I have for you for today. So until next time, Pterodactyl out.